This series is made possible by the generous donation of Stifel Financial and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Where Do We Go From Here? This is a weekly series that airs on Comcast Channel 17, Monday nights at 7 p.m. It's also streamed live on the internet. Besides this, we run series that are archived on our YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube, Where Do We Go From Here, NCTV, you'll see a list of programs that have aired. We have done 9 on the homeless issue. This is one of a series on the Centennial Dam. This will be the 8th episode on the Centennial Dam. And then we'll move on to climate change and gun violence, a number of issues, all of which have local impact with larger than local ramifications. In other words, expect the issue of dam construction and the environment to affect climate change, not only here, but it's an issue that we are looking at all over the nation and world. And today we have with us Scherzinger, who is the General Manager of Nevada Irrigation District. This will be a later episode in our series on the Centennial Dam, and it will also segue into climate change, because I assume, Rem, that the proposed construction of the dam is in consideration of the kind of weather extremes we're experiencing, and the dam is one proposal to help mitigate that.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So it's just part of a much larger package that we're proposing and working on currently to address climate change in our area.
So to begin with, it would be great for people who are watching to become a little better familiar with you. Tell us a little bit about your background training, how long you've been with NID, and then if you would, talk about what NID actually is and how it services the population.
Okay. So I'm a civil engineer by trade. I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, not San Luis Obispo. Environmental engineering, and moved to Sonoma County, where I was a design engineer and a planning engineer for Sonoma County Water Agency. I then moved to Petaluma, where I was the engineering manager and department head for the water resources group within the city, running treated water, wastewater, recycled water, and stormwater. So we had the whole package there at the city, and then came to NID in 2013. So I've been there since then. So this is my 6th year at the helm. I have as I said, a BA or a BS in civil engineering. I also have an MBA in finance, and so bringing all that to the district has been, I think, a boon for NID, as we're really moving some of our programs from a little bit dated into a new era, into new accounting systems, new management systems, stuff like that.
So how would you describe that transformation for NID? Again, people are going to become more and more educated about the functionality of NID.
Well, I think it's been a really functional expansion, to use your word, where we're now reporting more accurately our finances. We're reporting more accurately our water usage. We're reporting more accurately our hydroelectric and our recreation. In 2013, we brought hydroelectric operations under NID's umbrella. For the first 50 years, PG&E operated our systems. So this is dawn of a new day, as it were, where NID is now the owner and operator of our facilities. And so we're having to grow in that department, not just operationally, but understanding-wise, right? We're having to change how we manage the system and how we maintain the system.
So in terms of migrating to electrical generation, how many hydroelectric plants, how many reservoirs, dams does this comprise?
So it's quite sizable. So our hydroelectric operation consists of 7 power plants. We generate 82.2 megawatts in total. In NID, the upper division, meaning the lakes, Jackson Meadows, Bowman, Sawmill, French, Fauchery, Milton, all of those lakes are feeding through our hydroelectric system to Scotts Flat and to Rollins, which is where we make the transfer from hydroelectric generation per se into water operations. Now, that isn't to say that we don't have a generator at Rollins. People know about that one. And then we have 2 generators at Comby, so a north and a south. So it's very diverse and it's very large. NID in total is 287,000 acres. We're the second largest irrigation district in the state of California geographically. So not customer waste, but in terms of our total size. We serve a little over 19,000 treated water customers with 6 treated water plants delivering over 3 billion gallons annually. On the hydroelectric side, the 82.2 megawatts, that's enough power to service roughly 82,000 homes. And then our recreation facilities, we currently own and or manage 13 different recreation facilities on Rollins, Scotts Flat, Jackson Meadows, and Bowman, Sawmill. And that we see upwards of 175,000 people every year, and that's a $2.5 million operation. So while we're one of the larger organizations in Nevada County, we're also one of the single largest revenue importer to the community. So whereas other businesses, the hospital, Dignity Health, and others, their revenue is generated locally and is sent somewhere else. NID is bringing revenue to this community through our hydroelectric operations and through our recreational operations.
Well, it sounds to me like NID is an incredible hub of activity and responsibilities. I mean, any one of those
Yeah.
would be daunting, but I mean, I think I have more than 5, more than I could count on my hands.
Right.
So that's really impressive. I'm actually kind of wordless about the responsibilities that you carry. NID has existed for how long now?
So NID was formed in 1921, so we're in our 27th year now. We're our 97th year.
Yeah, right. Okay, and I'm just trying to think of it's had a somewhat I won't say secluded, isolated, but it hasn't been as visible as it is now, and maybe the Centennial Dam has been one of the issues that has brought it such great visibility.
I think so. I think that for many years, and I can say this about utilities in general, it's not an organization that's doing something that the public is often engaged in, right? People want their water to come out of the tap. They want their water at the curb. They want their water for the farm, and
they want it pure.
They want it clean,
healthy.
and they want it healthy.
Right.
And so, as long as NID is meeting those goals, they are not terribly interested in what we do.
Right.
And
you're not creating any trouble.
We're not causing problems for everybody. But the Centennial Reservoir is part of a much larger event structure that we're going through now. The frequency and severity of droughts in our community and in our region and in the state is becoming more intense, and they're becoming more regular, which means that NID has to communicate to the community, this is a time of shortage, we need to pull back. But while that's happening, the state is also in that mode. And so the public is hearing, we need to conserve, we need to do our part. And I take this moment to celebrate our customers. NID customers in 2016 conserved 26% over their 2013. Without fines, without Facebook neighbor shaming, without all the horrible things
mandates
that we hear about down in Southern California happening, our community pulled together. They were able to conserve. This is a continuing issue for NID and for our community, in that the state is moving forward to try to address not only shortages in the Delta, but also a future of 51 million people by 2060. So those that have water are going to have to deliver that water to the population centers. And so there is a great rejiggering coming. And so NID has to start the drumbeat within the community to help the community understand what's going on
Yeah.
And this is, NID, Lou, belongs to this community. It isn't a company, it's a utility. And everybody that's a customer, everybody that's a taxpayer, they own a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's theirs. And somebody, the state or others, may come and try to take it. And we need to be ready for that. And so one of the things that we're talking about, and this is a proposal, that's the thing is to remember, is that the Centennial Reservoir at this point is not a project in the sense that the board has directed staff to construct the facility. Okay? Right now it's in the proposal phase. So we're generating all the documents that the board needs to make an educated decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that decision is something that's done in public, it's done in the boardroom, and the board is bringing all of its expertise and the public will into that room. So that's where we're at with Centennial, with the reservoir.
I think there are two questions I want to get to. One is, and this is what I've picked up, is that sort of part of the public confusion is how much pressure is being exerted by the state to have NID move forward with a project like the reservoir to provide water for the rest of the state. How much, number one, how much pressure is being felt by NID to move ahead?
So the state has identified storage in the California Water Plan. ACWA, the Association of California Water Agencies, has also identified storage as one factor of many, right? But I think the thing is that even if we look at the Prop 1 bond, right, the state voted to put $2.7 billion into the bond for storage. Now, that's not going to materialize the way that most people thought it was, right? They were told that $2.7 million was going to go to storage. It's going to go to environmental projects that are within the storage portfolio, but clearly the state government recognizes storage as part of its solution set. ACWA and the other member agencies recognize that it's part of their solution set, and the state of California, the people, recognize that storage is part of the solution set. So is that pressure that NID feels? I would say only on the outer edge. Our issue at NID is that our system is predominantly, exclusively reliant on snowpack.
Right.
Snowpack for NID is a 150,000 acre-foot reservoir. Okay, our single largest reservoir. In 2015, that reservoir did not exist. In 2018, we're seeing that reservoir severely diminished.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot continue to operate a system that's snowpack dominant, knowing that climate change, all the climate science thus far has said, 80% of our snowpack is going to come as rain. Okay, if it's going to come as rain, we know that we have to catch it. And so the opportunities to catch it is in a reservoir.
Right.
It's not, we don't have a groundwater basin that we can fill that's up here. We all know it's fractured rock. You know, truly, you could drill a well where you're sitting and I could drill a well where I'm sitting and they would perform differently.
Right.
And so reservoirs are part of a greater toolbox that we need to engage in.
So one of the questions is when you say we've got to catch it, one of the questions that's brought up is if the Centennial Reservoir were not constructed, would there be some other reservoir or dam further down the line that would catch it?
No.
Okay.
Not that there aren't dams downstream. I mean, it's interesting to put the reservoir project in context. Right now on the Bear River, there's the diversion dam below Camp Far West, or now it's New Camp Far West. Then there's New Camp Far West. Then there's Camp Far West, which is submerged. Then you come up and you have China Dam. Then you have Van Giesen Dam. Then you have the Bear River Diversion Dam. Then you have Rollins Dam. Then you have Dutch Flat Dam. Then you have Drum Dam. Then you have, so we have a number of small reservoirs or large reservoirs on the Bear River. And this is the Centennial project, the Centennial Reservoir, is one of those. The interesting thing about the Bear River and why it's opportune, other than that we've been planning this project since 1927,
But there's been a period of pause in the sense that even though it was initiated in the 20s, wasn't there a long period of time where it was tabled?
So it's gone up and down, right? So in '44, we offered the project to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they took it and they thought, okay, we're gonna try to build a debris dam, and then the war kind of diverted them. In 1953, NID again brought forward the Parker site as a reservoir. It was decided that the Chicago Park Colfax area didn't have enough revenue to construct the facility, so it went dormant, and we ended up building a number of projects with PG&E's help, financial help, right? So we built Jackson Meadows, we built Rollins, we did some other improvements at Bowman. We actually increased our storage by about 160,000 acre feet. And then in '83, after the droughts in '77, again, NID moved forward. We started surveying the site, preparing for a reservoir project, and then weather being what it was, and whatever, the GM moved away from it, and here we are again. So this project's been part of NID's thought process for a long time.
And actually, that early 20s initiation is of advantage because you are on record. You have, factored it in, grandfathered in the sense. Might explain that in terms to the public.
So, and I think you're alluding to the water rights that were put in place. So I believe it's in July of 1927, the state filing was made at the Parker property for 110,000 acre feet of water to be held for the county of origin. And we are the county of origin, so we're asking the state to assign that water right to us. A 27 water right now in the state of California, given that the state is looking at enhancing its conservation legislation, making certain activities illegal per se, and driving a taking and through the human right to water, AB 684-85. It's very important to have a very senior water right. And NID has roughly half and half. We have half of our water rights are pre-14, meaning we believe them to be sovereign, and a recent court case says that the state can't touch those. But the other half is post-14. And those licenses, Lou, are only as good as the license in your wallet. The state can take them or modify them at any time. And one of the things that it always looks to do is if they can demonstrate that you're not utilizing the full water right, then they can take that water. And where are they going to take that water? They're going to take it to the Delta, or they're going to take it to a city. And we can understand that,
Sure.
right? They have population centers that need water.
Right. So one of the factors that brings up the Centennial Reservoir as a controversy is that a lot of groups and individuals have opposed it for various reasons. I could speculate as to what the reasons are. We've had interviews that will talk about what the reasons for the resistance to the reservoir are. But one of the things I think that NID has tried to do is to overcome the surprise, or the word that comes to mind is distrust, that there's a certain public resistance to the idea of the reservoir. And I'm wondering what NID is doing now to counter that, or to at least address it.
So it's a tough space.
It is.
Right? NID is engaged in the EIR now, and a lot of those documents are protected until the EIR is issued. So we can't necessarily release those. I speak to many groups that are in the community, both Nevada County, Placer County. I haven't been to Yuba County yet. Trying to explain to them what the project is, what the concepts are, and where we are in that process, right? And we have a website that's doing that. We have regular board meetings that people come to, and we're updating the engineering committee meeting as well. It's an interesting point is NID as a governing body, we have 6 public meetings a month We have 2 board meetings and we have 4 committee meetings. That's a lot of public opportunity. You know, do people utilize that? I would say a lot less than they probably should, but we're now televised during our board meetings so that people can see what's going on. We're also providing all of the minutes for all of the board meetings for a rolling year. So if anybody has any questions about the Centennial project, they can go on to the engineering committee meeting minutes, look at the minutes and see what's going on with the project. There'll be a period downrange when all of those environmental documents are out in the open. The public then can review them. The public can transact with the district as we're in that place. I totally understand the frustration that some of the groups that you mentioned, and it's not many, are struggling with trying to get information out of the district. A lot of that information right now is draft, or it doesn't exist, right? Financial plans, we don't have that yet. Portions of the environmental document are not available to the public. We're negotiating with the tribes, right, through an AB 52 process. That process is completely sheltered and cannot be divulged to the public, and the public will never see it, right? That's the law. But they want to be a part of that, and then I understand that, but it's not available to them.
So what I'm imagining is at some point, whether it's EIR related or some other, that there could well be a forum or a dialogue or a facilitation, science-based. And to me, that's the bottom line. I mean, we all have our opinions, but we're all trying to deal with a number of issues, some of which are really highly emotionally charged.
Right.
But a lot of them can be addressed with data, with science, as best possible. Is there a way in which NID could facilitate a process that involves the public, not a board meeting, but a public forum that could air a lot of the opinions and could try to document ways and options?
So you're leading to the raw water master plan, which
Okay.
is so with the Centennial Reservoir. Once the environmental document is out, that process then is open to the public. The public can communicate. We have public hearings. All of that stuff happens. On a second track, and this was something that the board directed me to do through resolution on Wednesday, was to begin the raw water master plan. The raw water master plan process is the key to all of NID's decisions over the next 50 years. It is critical that the community, both our governing bodies and our HOAs, our mutual water districts, our environmental components, everybody has to be a part of this process, because we are going to essentially split the pie for the next 50 years. We're going to talk about, as a group, a series of pathways. There won't be just one solution. How are we going to maintain our community for the next 50 years? Right? Without water, the community changes at its core. So we want to figure out how we do that, right? How do we ensure the safety of our community via the water?
In the midst of really erratic, somewhat unpredictable weather patterns. I mean, that's part of it. How do you nail down the weather patterns?
I don't have an answer. I wish I did. There was an article the other day that talked about the whiplash of weather.
Right.
And so we're going from the wettest year on record for NID. We put almost 6 times the amount of water over Rollins that could have filled the Centennial Reservoir. Almost 700,000 acre feet. Even this year, we've put tons of water over the edge, right? But we didn't get that water as snow melt. We got that water as rain, and it came in March, right when our reservoirs are fullest, when we can't utilize that water, and we're preparing to make our deliveries to our ag customers. It is as a water manager, Lou. This is it's very exciting and it's very difficult, right? Because we're changing. You can imagine that an organization that's been around as long as NID has a certain track. It knows how to do its job. We're having to change that thought process. We're having to change how we do business. We're saying, okay, we need to hold as much water in the upper division, our high elevation lakes, as long as we can. We don't want to dump those lower lakes until we absolutely have to, right? In the past, we've brought water down, we've equalized, we've prepared, knowing that our snowpack comes in June. It's coming in April.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue for us, and it's a big issue for the state, and it's a big issue for the environment. These animals, salmon for instance, salmon are in the system, and they're now having to adapt to water coming when it shouldn't come, and in volumes that they don't have the evolution to deal with. And so in some ways, these reservoirs, NID's reservoirs and PG&E's reservoirs, are dampening that effect. We're able to provide the resource for them as well as for us on a more managed scale.
Yeah. Just to continue that thought, even during the driest parts of the year, you are still mandated to regulate the flow of the rivers to maintain a certain life, certain ecology on the rivers that I don't know if people are aware of.
That's more than likely and true.
Yeah.
We know that in 2015 that the South Yuba and the Middle Yuba would have gone dry if it weren't for the reservoirs, weren't for Jackson Meadows deliveries, Bowman's deliveries, and Spalding's deliveries. Right. Those ecosystems haven't traditionally had water in the fall. I mean, when you go to Dry Creek, there's a reason it was called Dry Creek, right? And so we have created, for the 100 years that we've been around, plus the mining years, we've created environment for these species, and it's critical that we manage and maintain those, right? These animals, this flora and fauna, because it isn't just animals, it has found these opportunities and it's utilizing those opportunities, and so we have to be very, very careful and protect them, right? Because it in this whiplash mode, and I call them arcs. These kind of arcs of nature are really, really important to us, and so we must maintain them.
And they're becoming wider, broader. One of the things that I think about is how the state is going to respond, because it's experience. I mean, we are water abundant in a lot of ways compared to other parts of the state.
Yeah.
And how are the farming communities going to respond over a 50-year period? What's going to happen to the economy of the state? What's going to happen to farmers who we depend on for our food, fresh vegetables, even locally? How is that going to impact us? And it feels to me like we're on the edge of a crisis, and that's not going to go away.
Me too. Yeah.
And so in one sense, I say, is one dam going to make that much difference? Is that going to change the complexion for the state, or how do we, what's going to happen?
Well, so I look at the world, local first, regional second, statewide third. First, we have to protect ourselves, right? The lifeboat, we got to have 12 paddles all going the same direction.
Right.
Taking the 150,000 acre foot reservoir and extinguishing it, or not having it on a regular basis and building a reservoir that has 110,000 acre feet in it, is appropriate balance to maintain the status quo.
You're talking about what, 150? Oh,
so our
snowpack.
Snowpack's diminishing.
Okay.
We need to be able to put it someplace. And we need to be able to put it someplace, Lou, that is protected. When it's in the reservoir, and possession is 9/10 of the law, and we just hope that it stays that way. But when it's in the reservoir, the state has more difficulty taking it from us. That helps us ensure that the district is whole and can meet the demands that the community has. Now, that is to say that if we go through 1 year of drought, okay, we're okay. Second year of drought, things are getting bad, but we're kind of okay. Third year of drought, things are kind of the wheels are coming off the bus. Fourth year of drought, and I'm sure that the viewers, some of them, saw Scott's Flat before last year. We were at the lowest point in Scott's Flat, not in its history. Had we gone into 17 without rain, Scott's Flat was going to go dry. 80% of our treated water customers are served out of that reservoir. Nevada City, Grass Valley. So that reservoir going dry is very bad. But so locally, Centennial is about keeping the status quo, maintaining our current watershed. Once we're safe, then we can talk regionally. Then we can say, because we have to think that way, Lou. We have to be thinking NID has to be able to reach across the boundary and talk to Placer County Water Agency. We have to be able to support South Sutter, Camp Far West, our local, what we'll call a peer group, right? Because regionally, all of our success is important. Once everybody's okay there, then we can talk about supporting people in the Delta if they need it. But Centennial right now, as conceived in its proposal, is an NID resource, and it is for NID. That's one reason why we didn't fare very well on the California Water Commission grant opportunity, because we didn't put any water into the Delta. All we did was talk about some riparian habitat. It was fine. So it's mostly, right now, it's conceived of for our community and for our local community.
Right. Well, it's been educational. We're at a point where the conversation we can try to draw to a close, although I think that this is going to be something that we continue to come back to and explore, certainly when the raw water report comes out and assessment and the EIR. I'd like to be able to come back and talk further. I know that the community would welcome an opportunity for an open forum. And so I encourage you and NID to look at that option. And I want to thank you a lot. Pleasure. It's been great. And I wish you the best. I know that you've got a lot on your plate. And so if you liked what we talked about, you may agree or disagree. But that's the nature of controversy. That's the nature of looking at what is a very difficult issue to resolve. The dam construction and reservoir, water scarcity, all these issues are not going away. So we'll come back. Again, you can watch these on YouTube if you go to Where Do We Go From Here, NCTV. You can support these programs with donations to make sure that we continue to get the best of information from the people who are most informed and involved. So thanks for watching.